Can you see the full screen now?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. So good day, good morning, good evening, everyone. We have on this call friends and colleagues from all the way from Rodrigue to Seattle. The purpose of this call and meeting presentation would be to describe the protocol concept of the CIELAD impact study that we're planning. And we hope to work with Omnicane group of companies. And so we are very pleased to have Mr. Rajiv Ramlagan, who is the Group Chief Sustainability Officer of the Omnicane group of companies, and Mr. Ashok Kalicharan, who is the Chief Health Officer of the company. What I'll do is I'll go very fast on the first background part of the presentation because, and this is being recorded because we have discussed it before. The presentation itself will be available on our website at some point, and if you want to have a copy of it, please contact us on our website, and we will send you a copy. Then we will go into the protocol concept itself of the CIELAD impact study. And afterwards, we will turn the recording off and have a discussion. So to introduce the movement, the mission statement, all of you guys know we are a nonpartisan, non-sectarian, not-for-profit dedicated to curbing CNCD, that's the chronic non-communicable diseases associated with and preventable conditions of type 2 diabetes, CAD, hypertension, and stroke through the 525-35 vision. And as a signature goal, we want to decrease uncontrolled diabetes prevalence in the country by to 5% by the year 2035. Our main goal is to use Mauritius as a ground zero point to test the 520-35 model and vision, and then move over to other countries where we have footprint and the world in time to come. Recently, I had a very nice presentation that was held by a number of people that we put together on it's on YouTube. If you want to reach that, we will give you more details about this. But in terms of the nuts and bolts of the vision itself, we have gone through the grand vision, and again, I'm going to go very fast through these because I have already talked in another presentation. I'm just putting this so that you, if you are viewing the YouTube video, you can stop and go over it on your own time. The core of the vision is this community health committee. The cell block that we call it, that has 1,000 citizens and a community health officer, and that will become apparent in the next couple of slides. That and a community health committee that work together with the community health officer, the CHC, and the citizens to improve health in a local community in a way that has not been done before. This is the innovation of the 520-35 vision. And at the heart of that innovative model, we have the community health officer that has 3 pillars of practice: clinical excellence, community engagement, research, and training. Again, we have discussed this in detail in a previous presentation. Please refer to that presentation. If you need more information, contact us and we will send you additional information. Which brings us to the topic that we're going to be discussing today, the CIELAD impact study. Under the guise of people, power, and science first, what we want to do really is to build an impact study that will become a model for impact studies in other health ecosystems that we are planning on going. So the chance for us here in Mauritius is to be able to bring a high-power, high-level study conduct that will demonstrate the feasibility and success of the 520-35 model in a scientific manner by giving power to the people. And I'll go over all these terms in detail. I think that this is the outline of the talk. We'll talk about why the CIELAD impact study, the core principles. We will talk about the protocol concept itself. What is the study design, and what do we want to achieve out of it? We'll talk then about the stakeholders and the proposed organization of this enterprise. And then finally, I'll touch upon the funding structure, and then we'll turn off the recording for discussion with our stakeholders. At the heart of the 2035 vision, one should always remember is people, power, and science first. And if you think about it and reflect on it, you will see this DNA is part of all the things that we do. And so what we know from 60 years of research and experience, and physicians and research scientists like Dr. Lushman, myself, and others in the foundation, we know that components of the 2035 vision have been tested over the last 60 years. We know that community health is not, perhaps most likely the best way to attack CNCDs. And so that much is not in discussion. The fact that using a model where physicians are not seeing every single patient to make things more efficient is not in discussion. What is in discussion is whether in the country of Mauritius, the 2035 model will work. Again, this is an invention of the 2035 vision. The model is a product of over the last 10 years of Mauritians and friends of Mauritius who have been working hard, improving over and discussing and debating from the 19 time zones that we operate from. So that much is given, that we know that conceptually, the 2035 model is the way to go. But what is the most important thing is, will it work practically in Mauritius, or is Mauritius not the place where this model could work? We think that it will, but as I spoke last time, it doesn't matter what we think. We need to test it rigorously to be able to find out how it will work. So an impact study, as opposed to the kinds of drug studies that Dave and I do, is not so much a double-blind control study where you don't know who is getting what intervention. Here we will know who's getting what intervention. We will just assess the impact of that intervention, so that is the investment in the 2035 model, the big question from the health economics outcomes research, the investment in the 2035 model, is it worthwhile for a country? Is it worthwhile for other countries in the world? And so the goals of the impact study is to operationalize. The word operationalize is very important, so that we can capacity build in Mauritius. Look at where the kinks are. Where can we improve? What are the things that we have thought about for the last 10 years may not work in Mauritius, but perhaps it could work in South Africa, right? We want to test run the 2035 model in the Mauritian healthcare ecosystem. And then, all of us who are in health and public health, aficionados of public health, we do know and understand each healthcare system has its own particularities. So we want to test the model, whether it's going to work in the Mauritian healthcare system. And certainly, from a projection of information point of view, we want to create buy-in from Mauritian and international stakeholders and use the CIELAD impact study as a proof of concept, right? If we publish, when we publish the findings of this study in a high impact journal, we will get exposure to a world community, and then that will build buy-in. On the other hand, the Mauritian authorities would also understand that this is a program and a project and a vision and a model that could work exquisitely in the Mauritian healthcare system as we have it right now. So the core principles, and this slide number 16 is perhaps one of the most important slides of the whole slide deck, in my view, in how we're going to prosecute our idea, how we're going to run the study. There are two non-negotiable approaches, and we've had extended discussions in the ELT, in the LT, that for us to be able to engage to do the CIELAD impact study, we will not negotiate on two things, and that is scientific integrity and scientific rigor. From those two concepts, everything else flows. So those next the things that come in this slide comes from the two core ideas of scientific integrity and scientific rigor. The next idea is radical transparency and unquestionable scientific ethics. And so scientific ethics means, observing and going beyond the Helsinki Accord, being extremely open to what we are doing. So my ELT and I have plans to one day, not too soon, have the full protocol available of the study, so that others may take advantage of this information and do these kinds of studies in their own communities and countries in a scientific manner, so that we can help lives of people around the world. This is important. So every country has its own local regulatory and cultural and legal framework. We will observe these, or we commit to observing these, and if we have it on top of our mind for all the people involved in this study, this will put us in good stead. One very important thing that Dr. Gunpert, our Chief Medical Officer, pointed out to me in the pre-read is that we have to be able to convey to people at the beginning of our journey that we will focus on data privacy and protection of PHI. That is part of scientific integrity and rigor, but we need to enunciate that and say that we will make all the methods and mechanisms that exist in any international trial that Dave and I conduct, and we will observe those kinds of meticulous need to have focus on privacy and PHI protection. Finally, this may not be maybe self-evident, but as a foundation, as a movement, we will not veer from our foundation values. And I will invite you, for those who will receive the slide deck afterwards, to look at the backup slides where we have the notion of the inclusive leadership and inclusive membership in how we want to run our movement. So that's going to be extremely important. For us, I have discussed this in the previous presentation, so that's going to be important too. Those who are not talking, could you please put yourself on mute for the moment? Thank you. Right, so this is the study design. And technicians like Dr. Litcherman, myself, and Dr. Gunpert spend a lot of time and hours thinking about how do we design the study to answer the questions that we want to answer. And so for us, it's been landing on the fact that this study we're proposing to run in l'Escalier will be a cluster randomization. Why? Because l'Escalier, the community of l'Escalier with 8,000 inhabitants, will be where we're going to intervene with the 520-35 model. And the control populations would be the village of Espérance-Trébuchet, the village of Vallée des Prêtres, and the region of Rodrigues, which is part of the Mauritian nation. We have chosen this for practical reasons. Full disclosure, I was born in Espérance-Trébuchet, but truth be told, Espérance-Trébuchet has one of the strongest participation in terms of in the town halls that we have done. Same for Vallée des Prêtres. We had a very successful town hall. There are people in that community who are very engaged and want to test out this model. And Rodrigues, certainly, Anne-Jenny Pierre-Louis, our district manager, has done a wonderful job in sensitizing the leaders in the community of Rodrigues about our project and our vision. So what would be the incentive, you'd say, for these control groups to be controls, in that once we have established the control, the next round, these three communities would be would have the first right to refuse to to deploy the 5-20-35 model in their communities. But by being controls, they're going to be doing an extremely important job in our ability to assess the sort of impact, thereby the name of the study, an impact study of the 5-20-35 model when deployed in the community. You would also note that these three communities have somewhat different demographics, and we don't have time to go into that. We will have another presentation, perhaps by Dr. Gunpert, who will go in detail about the choice of the demographics and the rationale behind doing the study activities that we're going to be doing. Suffice to say, all of these adults who are going to be participating, more than 18 years old. So out of this 8,000 people, about 3/4 of them, so about 6,000 will be adults. We will require a signed informed consent after the protocol has been duly approved by the ethics committee at the Ministry of Health. Then we will have initial screening for diabetes and prediabetes. So roughly we're looking at 40% of people in Mauritius who are either diabetic or prediabetic. That will leave us with a group of around 2,500 people in each arm. Now, if we are not able to get the set number, we may decide to expand our sites. We may decide to open an adjoining site near Escalier that would be that would have more catchment areas so that we reach up to 2,500 to 3,000 people that will be following. And then the next would be, as I was saying, L'Escalier will be allocated to intervention. We will do the interventions, and we're going to talk about those in a different talk, and there are rationale and clinical design documents that we have already pointing over which specific things we're going to do. And then the final visit will be at 18 months. On the other hand, these three communities of Espérance, Trébuchet, Vallée des Prêtres, and Rodrigue would be the control population. They will have standard of care, so we'll have initial screening, and then we will go back and at the end of the treatment period at L'Escalier, we'll collect the same data and then compare which group has done well in what way. This slide itself, number 17, has taken us perhaps more than 3 years to develop in understanding. It has a lot of, under the hood, it has a lot of thoughts, a lot of activities that are planned that will be the subject of other presentations. So the outcome measures, we will have number one, we will have clinical measurements, how well the patients who are being treated are doing in their diabetes, how many are converting from prediabetes to diabetes, quality of life outcome measures. We will also understand how is because remember, it's the testing of the community health officer model. So the research nurses who are going to be part of the study are going to be a proto-CHO model. How are they able to organize a community in a sustained manner, not just having one shot, but in a sustained manner towards better health behavior? And that's very important. So there's a lot of effort that's going to be going in the protocol development phase in that regard. We will have a very important part led by Dr. Guru Bajawan, who's an assistant professor at the University of Iowa School of Medicine, Mauritian, and Mr. Ali Mansour, former International Monetary Fund official and our advisor, to look at health economics outcomes research. And that's important to get buy-in from the government in that this plan would be less expensive and would have better outcomes in terms of public health. And then, of course, we want to have insights on and the challenges. This study is going to be hard. We will have to redefine some of the cultural practices and some of the, both administratively, both from officials, both from study conduct people, and also from the government. But we want to understand where those challenges are and how we can overcome the challenges in the pragmatic way. That's one of our core principles. And I invite you to look at our our white paper for details on the seed scale model and also on the community-based participatory methodology that we're going to be using. These are very technical things, not the focus of this presentation, but we'll come back to it in future presentations. And certainly, and importantly, over the next 2 years where we're going to be developing, we're going to be running, hopefully, the CIELAD back study starting soon. 2 related GFCH foundation activities are going to be key for capacity building. And I want to stress that while we're conducting the CIELAD study, there'll be parallel activities. Dr. Lutschman and Dr. Doman are head of the do's, don't do's, which are a goal of having 12,000 adherents to the foundation across our 19 time zones in 12 months. So by fourth quarter of 2020, we want to have 12,000 adherents. That will provide the core group that will spread and capacity build in local communities. And the other major activity will be the CHO curriculum and training development. So Mr. Bill Burke out of Annapolis, who's our Chief Curriculum Officer, helped by Dr. Durgahi in UK and helped by Ms. Marshall, who's our Chief Nursing Officer, they have started a huge work stream to work on a white paper that will learn from the CIELAD study and will implement those 3 pillars in how we want the curriculum to develop. And we have to highlight here critical help from Professor Om Verma from the Mauritius Institute of Education, who's going to be our local leader in this curriculum development. So these 2 issues, these 2 efforts, the do's, not do's, and the CHO white paper, are not going to be part of the CIELAD, but they're going to be intimately linked. We're going to be learning in an incremental manner what's working, what's not working, and that will inform the curriculum development and the do's, don't do's protocol. So these are the stakeholders that I thought of, and you can read about the roles, but basically we view ourselves as a sponsor for overall execution and oversight, all those things that we talked about. The UOM will be a co-partner. Associate Professor Marie-France Chanson and Associate Professor Chinia have been in touch. Unfortunately, it looks like Professor Chanson was not able to join this meeting, but we have been talking with them for over 2 years now in how they will be the academic driver of the study itself. So they have they're going to be participating in overall execution, and our really vision is, and had lengthy talks with Professor Danjai Jari, who's the Vice Chancellor of the University of Mauritius, how to make the University of Mauritius and other academic institutions in the country to be the center of excellence for the 5-25 model for the world. So what we're seeding here is not for the next 2 years, but really for the next generation. We truly think that in developing Mauritius as a plaque tournante, as they say, for this model that we can export to other parts of the world. Certainly in this study operational conduct, we are exploring, and we are very excited that Omnicane, PATH, and other NGOs would be able to work with us. They will be involved intimately in study conduct, in the operational excellence, but also, remember scientific rigor and integrity and meeting and beating timelines. We'll have a steering committee that I'm going to come to in the next slide. And in this case for CIELAD, we will do everything possible to have the Ministry of Health and Wellness to be our customer. We have serious efforts for 3 years now to get a letter of support to run this study. We think we are making huge progress. And that letter of support is will sort of align our interests and that of the Ministry of Health. We were very pleased that in the G-School program at the beginning of the year, Prime Minister Jagannath has earmarked substantial resources towards decreasing CNCD in the country. And so I think this is very much in line with this effort to obtain in-kind resources so that we can make this study happen sooner than later. And so those are the major stakeholders. Of course, there will be other stakeholders that will come on, but these are the 5 ones that I could identify at this point in time that are going to be critical to making the CIELAD study a success. These are the study leadership. Now, leadership is very important, and the way that Dave and I and Jay and others have thought about it is to, I'll be the program lead, responsible for the overall deliverable on all lines, so the buck stops with me. And because, frankly, Dave and mine and Jay's and Nikhil's and others' professional reputation really relies on this. If we mess it up, this will have implications on our own professional lives, and we will not allow it to happen in terms of professional integrity and scientific rigor for the conduct and ethics of the study. We are very pleased to have Dr. Anne Badrishani considered to be the GPML, the Global Program Management Lead. So she will hopefully be responsible for the day-to-day operations and the program management and the operational excellence for the study. She has over 25 years of global health experience, recently working for Médecins Sans Frontières, has worked within she's based in Paris, French national, has worked in 31 different countries. And, I'll let her talk about why she's interested. I mean, she has worked with Gates Foundation, with World Health Organization, with you name it. But when she saw the vision of what we have, she said, this is a worthwhile effort, that if I could participate in it in any way I can, it would really make a mark in the world. So she's coming in. If someone like her is putting her time and effort to this, you can only imagine how excited we are. Dr. Jay Lachman will be her deputy. Dr. Ganesan Chinya, who is at the UM, will be our principal investigator. One of the few faculty members who have been specifically trained in clinical trial conduct. I believe he was at King's College London, where he did his MD and got his MPH, or was it an MSc in clinical trial conduct? So he'll be our principal investigator. Mr. Kalichern, we are previewing to be the site clinical director. A lot of responsibilities will be on him in a way. If he is not able to do all of it, he may have deputies. Those are details to be worked out. The details of the clinical health committee is also going to be worked out in the 52035 model. And the global communications lead is going to be Dr. Vincent Oxenham, who is our chief people officer. He's based in Sydney, Australia. These are the initial members of the steering committee. As you can see, you can read the names. I won't go over this in the interest of time, but significantly, on the steering committee will be myself and Jay and all of our advisors and Professor Chanson. Of course, Mr. Ramlagan is going to be part of the steering committee, and so also Mr. Sivan Silohi, who's a community organizer in the region of the South, where the studies of Mauritius, where the study is going to be led, but also of national impact. I had a very good talk with Mr. Silohi, and he's very excited to be part of the steering committee. So for those who don't run clinical trials, which will be most of you guys, a steering committee is like the board, and they have the power to make voting decisions on the direction of a study. They are very important, and the lifeblood of how well a trial is conducted relies on the steering committee. So this is going to be a very important part of the study itself. So we will have a communication plan. Vince is going to be heading that effort because when you're talking about something important as clinical trial information, results, we want to have a clear and transparent communication plan in the way that I will not be able to directly talk about the study while it's being conducted without getting the sort of approval from Dr. Oxenham. But this is typical of any clinical trial conduct, so that we are disciplined in how we communicate information, so that there are no mishaps of public relations. We will have a publication plan. We will follow the ICMJE guideline. At this point in time, and this may and likely will change, we are seeing Dr. Chinya Gunpat and myself as the corresponding authors, me being the senior author, and Dr. Chinya and Gunpat being the co-first authors, and the others that we have listed as you can see. Why we need to have a publication plan? Because remember, we started as a local, Mauritians worried about and anguished over the CNCD picture in Mauritius and want to change. But really, over the last year, we have ballooned into, having Mauritians as well as Friends of Mauritius, and our ambition has become global rather than local to Mauritius. And that we had the ambition, but we didn't think, well, we thought initially it would be for others to prosecute the global ambition. But given the response we've had across the world, around the world, we think that we should take the flag and go with it. And a publication in a high-impact peer-reviewed journal is going to do our movement to globalize it, to help patients through community empowerment, to frugal innovation. It's worth more than in gold and diamond and platinum, whatever rare, expensive product you want to think about. So having clarity in scientific rigor and scientific ethics of who is going to be where in the publication is going to be very important. The HEOR, the Health Economics Outcomes Research paper that will be published separately, and Ali and Guru and others would be working on that. And there will be a whole host of secondary papers will be based on who will follow the ICMJE guideline in who has done the work, and there will be corresponding authors or senior authors or what have you. And so we want to bring the level of rigor and level of transparency that exists in any study in the world at the top institutions and the top companies in that way. We will have protocol development. Myself, Dave, and Ganesan will be leaders of this. There's a lot of work. A protocol can run anywhere between 75 to 125 pages long. There's a lot of detailed information. Dave and I do that for a living, and Jay too, and we will be able to do this in good time. We will have our advisors in the foundation to help us. We will, interestingly, and this is important, this is an innovation, doesn't happen many times. While we're developing the protocol, we will be talking to the CHC, we will be talking to Mr. Kalchan and others to make sure that what we are proposing in the protocol will work for operational success. And so that's very important. Next, we will have a monitoring plan. It will be co-owned by UOM and GFCH, the terms to be arranged. We will have stringent guidelines for clinical monitoring, again, for safety, data integrity, data privacy, and ethics. And the whole study will be audited by a third-party vendor that we will choose in time to come. The data management plan, again, is very important. We will be co-owned by the UM and GFCH, and terms will be determined. We will follow stringent EU guidelines for PHI and data privacy. At some point, the database will be de-identified and will be made public so that the whole world can benefit after our first series of papers. And so this would be typically not done in academia or in pharmaceutical research, but we want to be a gift to the world so that people can derive insights for their own studies that they want to run. in the future. Legal representation will be managed between the foundation and UOM. And, Ms. Gita, I spoke to her earlier. Unfortunately, she couldn't be in the meeting, is fully on board with this. And we also have a general counsel in the United States, Ms. Donna Zach, based in Houston, Texas, who will make sure that we follow the legal and regulatory requirements for Mauritius, but also any legal and requirement that could be then mirrored anywhere else in the world. We want to have very high standards of legal compliance. Funding. So, I have to be honest, none of us on the foundation side are fundraisers by profession. But we do understand that, for us to be able to do the CIELAD study, we will need funding. And so we will start in the discussion part how we will go about getting the funding. Certainly, the soft and hard resources from the Ministry of Health as well and Wellness, as well as Omnicane, will determine how long we will need to seek the other funding that's needed. And the costing of how much we will need to seek funding will depend on how much quick funding we can have. And it's all about time. For example, we will apply to the MRCs and local philanthropy and CSR type funding. We will apply to international governmental institutions like the NIH, the Fogarty Center, EU, philanthropy, and crowdsourcing, and all of this. But the only thing for us, it's not whether or not we will get funding, it's how long it will take us to start the study. And that's what's at play. For example, for the NIH, one cycle is 9 months. So if you apply now, you may get funding. Usually, most people don't get funding in the first round. So we're talking a year and a half or 2 years, if that, to get funding. So our major consideration will be time and how do we get the first subject, first visit in the study as fast as we can will be the topic of discussion. So again, timeline will depend on resource alignment and Ministry of Health buy-in. And our stretch goal, this is a moonshot to have a first subject, first visit by 4Q20. We'll see how it goes. But there are huge issues to be done in terms of aligning the personnel, in terms of contracts, in terms of a number of things. And remember, one thing that I must highlight, we are all volunteers up to this point in the study. So no one is being paid. Like right now I'm at, so it's a work day and I'm taking some time off to talk to you guys. And so, but at some point we will need to professionalize the enterprise or else it's not going to work. And that's why having someone like Dr. Badrishani and others in the foundation who will dedicate specific time and be compensated for it, as well as from the NGO path and other side, we need to have dedicated people working on the study. But our stretch goal is this: if we achieve it, great. If we don't achieve it, we will not give up. We'll continue on to do what needs to be done to make sure that our people in Mauritius become the first one to enjoy the benefit of the 520-35 model and vision. And how do we go from Mauritius to other parts of the world? We already have several other countries and communities who want to, who would be willing to test the model, but we absolutely want Mauritius to be first. But again, we'll see how things go. Critical path. I can't emphasize enough how much we need the letter of support from Ministry of Health and Wellness, and we have several people working to that regard. We can table the discussion afterwards. We will need to start discussing. We are very in advanced stages with the MOU with University of Mauritius. After this discussion, we'll begin a discussion with our MOU from Omnicane, if that is the path we go forward. other NGOs, PATH and other NGOs will also be part of it, so that everything is driven in a transparent way. One knows what needs to be done and what are the expectations and the deliverables and the KPIs. Protocol development is also going to be key, but protocol development, frankly, Dave and I would not want to spend. We have a protocol concept that we've already written. The protocol development is a huge effort. You're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 hours of work between the three of us and all those other people who are going to be joining us between now and to develop the protocol. Because a good protocol will make a good study, will make good impact on the lives of people. Because we will have tested it scientifically, the utmost rigor and ethics. So this was the presentation itself. I will now stop the recording. Again, in the backup slides, we have the inclusive leader that I have talked about in the past. Please ask us for an electronic copy of this slide deck if you wish. And then we will now go to the discussion part after I stop recording. So right about